Okay, level check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So level check. Meteorologist Steve Horstmeyer here. So you might as well get a little bit of a drink of Diet Mountain Dew. Okay, it says we're live on Facebook, so if you're getting ready for the 7:15 streaming weather show that's live from Fox 19 every Monday through Friday, it's coming up in under a minute. Okay, level check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looks like all the levels are working. Looks like all the buttons are pushed, so we should be ready to go any second now when the clock ticks over. Just have to turn on the studio lights, and we are ready. Hi everyone, this is meteorologist Steve Horstmeyer coming to you live from the streaming center at Fox 19 now. It's 7:15 and it's time for our streaming weather show live. Starting off this evening with a time lapse. Notice that time lapse begins at 3:13 a.m. today, and this is from Turfway Park. You can see the lights come on early for the horses working out. You see the fog, which wasn't too thick. Hey, look at that, some blue sky out there. With some nice cumulus clouds, and then as we head toward the latest time, toward now, cloud cover is once again thickening around the tri-state. Now here's the time lapse starting at 7:15 from Newport on the Levee. You can see the tops, I'll see the top of the Great American Tower is obscured. That gets a little bit lower and then begins to lift. We have blue sky on this shot too. Look at those beautiful cumulus clouds. Turned out to be a really nice afternoon around the tri-state, and then the cloud cover thickening up once again, although it thinned out there just recently for a little while. And here's the latest view from Newport on the Levee. You can see a big area where there's not much cloud cover right there, really bright, and off to the west, the thicker cloud cover is already rolling back into the tri-state. And there it is right now with 74 degrees at the International Airport. So for Friday, rain comes in before dawn, and then it goes out of here into the evening hours. And so the rain during the morning hours, and that means especially for the morning commute, could be pretty heavy at times, especially from the city southward. And then as we head on into later in the day, so let's say after 11 a.m., it goes down to scattered showers and begins to taper off as we head into the evening. We'll still see a few showers on into Saturday morning, and then sunshine for Saturday afternoon. And it looks like a nice sunny day on Sunday, although the one thing for Sunday is temperatures start off in the 40s, so kind of chilly. Here you go, temperatures in the 60s and lower 70s right now meaning the 7 p.m. observations. And here's what we've been looking at on radar. You can see what looks like a lot of rain coming our way, but a lot of that, because we're using multiple radars, we're using a composite here, not single radar, a lot of that is cloud level moisture high in the clouds from the radars that are far away. You can see it's literally evaporating, so there might be a few sprinkles in southeast Indiana, but it pretty much dies out as we head on into the evening hours. Okay, so let's take a look. Starting at 4 a.m. Okay, 4 a.m. you see rain there in yellow off to the west, beginning to head into the Fox 19 Now viewing area. And notice temperatures in the upper 50s to lower 60s around the tri-state. We put this into motion by 6 a.m. Rain, heavy at times, is beginning to move into the western half of our viewing area, so that includes Butler and Hamilton County, all of southeast Indiana, parts of northern Kentucky to the west of the city. By 8 a.m., rain pretty much everywhere, some of that heavy, a slow morning commute. Everything pushes off to the east. Now notice, if you look way down here, you can't see it because of these monitors here, but if you look down here, you can see the indications of maybe what are a few thunderstorms around the tri-state, but out of our viewing area. And so that's 10 a.m., so the entire morning commute looks wet. Some of it looks like the rain will be heavy, and then it pushes off to the east, and it begins to turn into scattered showers as we head through the evening. Okay, so and then lingering showers will be with us into Saturday morning, but not much coming our way during the day on Saturday. So this evening, right now at the International Airport, that 74 you saw before was Lunken Airport, 71, dropping off to 65 by 11 p.m. with nothing more than a sprinkle. Down to 58 for the overnight low, and rain could be heavy at times for that morning commute. Tomorrow, the high only 68 degrees. Okay, we made it into the mid and upper 70s today. Only 68 tomorrow because of the cooling by rain and the thick cloud cover stopping much, if any, sunshine from coming our way. So the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook from the Climate Prediction Center, that goes through the 8th of June, keeping us warmer than normal. Through the 12th of June, about the same thing, still warmer than normal. Precipitation-wise, slightly more than normal through the 8th of June, and slightly more than normal through the 12th of June. So it looks like a little wetter than normal and a little warmer than normal as we head on into almost to the middle of the month of June. Okay, so I guess the takeaway so far is that we don't have any really, really wet situation heading our way. Now remember, June historically is the wettest month of the year by total accumulation of precipitation. So we get more rain in June than any other month. So when you factor in a little bit more than normal, that means it could be just as wet as it's been now. However, with the temperatures warming, you get more rapid evaporation, so things don't stay as wet around the tri-state. Okay, so let's take a look at the 7-day forecast here. Tonight's low 58, high tomorrow 68. Heavy rain for the morning, a few storms mixed in, and then tapering off to scattered showers for evening. 59 and 71 with rain leaving the area early Saturday. That means pretty long before noon. FC Cincinnati plays Saturday evening at 7:30. Looks like a great evening for soccer. Filtered sunshine and 72 on Sunday. Monday, lots of sunshine, comfortable, high of 75. The Reds are back in town. They play at Great American Ballpark. I think it's back to 7:10 now. Tuesday, sunshine with a high of 80. The Reds play again. Wednesday, the Reds play again with a slim chance of a shower late in the day, but dayside hours on Wednesday look dry. And then back to some shower and thunderstorm activity for Thursday. And the reason we have the high temperature dropping to 78 is because of fairly thick cloud cover and the cooling effect of the rain. Excuse me a second, I've got to get a drink here. Okay, let's go on and take a look at beyond the 7-day forecast, and that's some good news for warm weather lovers. Now, one thing we do have coming our way is we've got quite a bit higher humidity coming our way as we head into the end of the 7-day and the beginning of this beyond the 7-day forecast. So even though high temperatures will be in the 80s, it's going to be pretty sticky around here for a little while. So get ready for our first real taste of summer. But it looks like the Friday and Saturday look dry. Then we have Sunday the 8th through Thursday the 12th. Each day could have some shower activity. High temperatures in the 80s, lows in the 60s. Now remember, the normal high temperature is on the way up. So when we look at the 7-day plus, you'll see that the high temperatures warm from a normal of 78 to 82. The low temperature warms from a normal of 58 to 62. And you can see that on the high temperature line, we have one day below normal at the beginning. That's the high of 68. Then we're a little bit above normal or a lot above normal all the way out. Although that's 78 there between the two 83s is right about normal. So we're warmer than or equal to normal right on into the 12th of June. And then when we take a look at the lower line, that's the low temperatures, there's a 3-day stretch there where we're cooler than normal, but for the most part, 11 out of those 14 days are warmer than normal around the tri-state. So it all adds up to adequate rainfall, but with warmer temperatures, things should be drying out. However, if we take a look, at this stretch of time right in here, looks like we could have a couple of episodes with some fairly heavy rain coming our way. So we're not quite out of that yet. It looks like we might see between next week and the early part of the following week, we could see a couple more inches of rainfall, and that would make us still fairly wet for this time of the year and wetter than normal. Okay, let me go to Facebook, see what we've got in the way of comments. Okay, here we go. Chris Chandler says, nice day today in Loveland. That's my hometown, Chris, although I was born here in the city of Cincinnati and lived my first couple years there. When I was 4 years old, we moved into Loveland Heights, and I lived there through my first year of high school. Then my dad got transferred to California, but after a year and a half in California, we moved back to Loveland. And so, and if you're, Chris, if you're familiar with the Dairy Whip there at the bottom of the hill at West Loveland Avenue, I got my first ice cream cone there on August 4th, 1957. That was a little bit more than 2 years after they opened. So I've always had a nice soft spot in my heart for Loveland. It's my hometown. My formative years were there. And now with the bike trail there, it's great. Okay. Hi to Karen Hiller. She's from Bethel. I'm glad to hear somebody from Bethel is watching. So Karen, hope you get some information out of this. It's useful. Susan Wally says, beautiful day. Hopefully next week we'll have dry weather for hay to be cut. Horses and goats are getting nervous. Okay, you know that now that you said that, Susan, let me go take a look. Let me pull up a longer term model, one that goes out to next week, and we'll let you see right now where the rain looks. And now that's capable of shifting a couple days one way or the other, but at least it'll give you an idea. And I don't think next week looks too dry. Unfortunately. So, okay, let me find the file here. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll step through this by hand, but as soon as it comes up, there you go, I'll put it for you full screen. Okay, so this starts Friday at 7 p.m. Well, let's start before that. Okay. Okay, so this is, what is going on? Well, excuse me a second, I might have to edit this. I think I was using it for something else. And I'll show you what the rainfall looks like as we head out. Okay, well that's it. Okay, that is the correct data set. Okay, so let me step through this manually. So this is Thursday at 7 p.m. or about now, okay? And then here we go, and this will give you a good look at that. By 5 a.m., the rain's moving in. By 6:30 a.m. and 7 a.m., the rain is all over the entire Fox 19 Now viewing area. Look at that yellow. That's heavy rainfall. The dark green is moderate rainfall. And you can see that by 8 a.m., a good portion of southern parts of southeast Indiana and western parts of northern Kentucky getting heavy rain. And then looks like that crosses our southern counties and pushes to the east pretty quickly. Okay, so then Friday it tapers off to scattered showers, comes to an end in the evening. Saturday morning we get a little bit of rainfall, and right there I said by 11 a.m. it's completely out of our viewing area. So the last raindrops fall in the metro area about 5:30 a.m. So if you're down in Robertson County Sunday, or if you're in Mason or southern parts of Brown and Adams or Lewis, you may see some shower activity that lasts until a little bit after 10 a.m., but for the most part, it's gone after that. Okay, so that takes care of a Saturday. Sunday, no rain in the forecast. Monday, no rain in the forecast. Tuesday, no rain in the forecast. And then Wednesday afternoon and evening, we've got rain moving in. Now, this may change. So Susan was asking this about cutting hay next week. So I think, I mean, I don't know if how you feel about cutting hay on Sunday, if you can do it, if it's dry enough after the rain that we get on Friday. But it looks like we go back into rain during the day on Wednesday, probably late in the day. That moves through, and then another band of rain comes in Thursday into Friday, and then it dries out for the following weekend. So let's see here. Let me go back to, too many buttons to push. Okay. So, Susan, it looks like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and most of Wednesday dry. I don't know how long the bales of hay have to set out there to dry out, or what you do with them. But it looks like Wednesday night, Thursday into Friday, plenty more rain coming our way. So that's just to let you know what hay cutting conditions are like. And your best streak of dry weather would be Saturday afternoon, but Saturday afternoon, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and most of the day on Wednesday at this point. Then Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday look wet. All right, Christine Miller. So Christine says, I keep hearing we're going to have some dry weather, but the rain never stops. Well, we got dry weather today after that morning fog. Tomorrow the rain, it ends Saturday, and then, as I just mentioned to Susan, for hay cutting purposes, most of the day on Saturday, all of Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and almost all of Wednesday at this point look dry. And with the temperatures where they are, things should dry out pretty well for a while, okay? Susan says she loves 60s and low 70s. You know, me too. I mean, that's kind of like Seattle temperatures, but Seattle has more rain and cloudiness. But I'm not a big fan of really hot and humid weather, but, you know, and 60s and 70s would be great. Jackie Bibb says, hi from Goshen. Jackie, I grew up in Loveland, as I just told everybody there, and Goshen wasn't too far away. And actually, when I was a kid, there wasn't that much traffic out along, let's say, Branch Hill Guinea Pike or any of those roads out there in northern Claremont County. And we could ride our bikes on the roads all the way from Loveland to Goshen and back without any kind of traffic incidents. But now the places have grown up so much that there's just not, it's not very safe to be on the roads on some of those old country roads. Yeah, Chris Chandler says, yeah, he's familiar with that, the dairy. We used to call it the whippy dippy back in the old days. But all right, Jeff Beach. You know, Jeff, I was going to show you that because if I can, I don't think I can find them very quickly. But our new meteorologist, or it's not so much new anymore, but Brad Moushart, put together an explanation of the shifting of the tornado alley, okay? And I will, if I can find it quickly, I can show it to you guys. Quickly is just something that doesn't happen too often here. So let me see if I can find it and I can load it. But Brad put together a really nice explanation. Not so much an explanation, just showing where things are happening. So let me see if I can find it. All right. Now let's see. Usually he puts his stuff in here, and oh, it's got all my stuff in there. That's why. Oops. Okay, I'm looking for, and if not, I will. We'll just talk about it for a while. Hey, there we go. Brad's always very organized, and when he says he puts something in a specific place, guess what? It's there. So I didn't have to look too far. All right, so now let's see. Okay, now I've got to see where I am and what's going on camera here. I'm glad you asked that about the tornado alley shifting. So let me start off here. We'll restart this and see what Brad has put together for us here. And it's coming up here. Okay, now I'm going to show you this full screen here in a second so you can see it better. But it starts off with the tornadoes in our viewing area only, okay? And he's color-coded them based on their intensity. Most of them are EF0s, a few EF1s. And so those are the tornadoes that have occurred in the Fox 19 Now viewing area this year, okay? So we can go a little bit further and zoom out, and these are all the tornadoes that have occurred basically from central Kansas and Oklahoma and Nebraska eastward. So look at all, I mean, there are a lot of tornadoes there. All right, and if you zoom out a little bit farther, here's what you want to notice. You want to notice how this is typically where you think of tornadoes. Look how few or how sparse the tornado occurrence is out there, and look where it's concentrated, okay? So, and one of the things that meteorologists and researchers have begun to learn is that as global warming continues to take place everything is shifting a little bit one way or the other. For example, the jet stream will stay further north. And what happens here, the explanation they have here is that when the jet stream shifts further north, okay, you got a bigger high pressure system here, and you have more winds coming over the mountains from the west. They descend and they increase the aridity or the lack of moisture here, and they may decrease the amount of moisture enough that there's fewer tornadoes, because one of the things you need for a powerful thunderstorm to create a tornado is moisture. That's thunderstorm fuel. And so as the jet stream stays further north, it typically will dip a little bit farther south over the eastern United States. That's a dynamic result of the mountains being here. So typically in the winter, we have the jet stream do this over the tri-state because of the dynamic interaction with the winds in the mountains. And if the jet stream is staying further north, that means the winds are out of the west more. So they're coming out of the desert western part of the United States. They come over the mountains and they descend. And as they descend to lower altitudes, they warm up and they dry out, and you get less rainfall here. And as a matter of fact, in the early days before all that was explained, they found out that there was a big kind of tongue of dry grasslands here that extended all the way into Illinois. It's called the Prairie Peninsula, because it looked like a peninsula on the map. And that was just the fact that the air was coming out of over the mountains, sinking into the dry high plains, sinking even more as it head toward the Missouri River, and then that would warm it up and dry it out. And so if, in fact, what's happening with global warming continues, and there's absolutely no reason to think that it's not going to continue, as a matter of fact, it's going to accelerate, we're going to have more winds from the west coming over the mountains, heading down slope, warming up and drying out, and that means by the time that means more Gulf of Mexico moisture here, and that means a lot of the energy of the jet stream stays north of the plains and dips a little bit southward for dynamic reasons over the eastern United States. So you can see that, okay? So you can see where the concentration of tornadoes so far this year is. There are just not very many out in the typical place that we call Tornado Alley. So here is where typically Tornado Alley is considered to be. So that's most of South Dakota, nosing into North Dakota, a little bit of Minnesota, western Iowa, almost all of Nebraska, all of Kansas, a little bit of Missouri, a little bit of Arkansas, all of Oklahoma, and a big chunk of Texas. That's traditional Tornado Alley. But look at what they're saying now. They're calling it the emerging Tornado Alley. And because of the way everything is changing in the atmosphere, jet stream further north over the plains, but dipping southward over the Great Lakes, the drier air, the air coming over the mountains and sinking, bringing less Gulf of Mexico moisture in, warming up and drying out as it sinks from the mountains. Now, some of the things you may not know about geography, we talk about Denver being the mile-high city. Well, there are parts right here in western Nebraska that are higher than Denver, and people don't realize that. So when the winds come down out of the mountains, they are about a mile high here, but they sink to about 900 feet. So there's about 5,000 feet of elevation change, and the more air sinks, the more it's compressed under higher pressure and warmed, and the drier it is, and the less likely you are to have precipitation. So that's one of the speculations, hasn't been completely tested yet, one of the speculations as to why Tornado Alley, the traditional Tornado Alley, is becoming less and less active, and what they're calling the emerging Tornado Alley is becoming more and more active, okay? So jet stream further north, winds coming over the mountains and drying out, less Gulf of Mexico moisture here because of the winds, and then more Gulf of Mexico moisture up the Mississippi and Ohio River valleys. And so that's what we're talking about, emerging Tornado Alley. So I'd like to thank Brad for preparing that. It's a great graphic. It really explains it. So let me go over that graphic one more time. Okay, I'll back up here. I think I'll back up here. Let's see. Reactivate the computer. I'll just back up manually then. All right. So, okay, we'll do it again now. Okay, so we'll go back to the beginning. So here, all the tornadoes that have occurred in the Fox 19 Now viewing area and surrounding areas so far this year. Then we go forward here, And you see all the tornadoes that have occurred from Cincinnati, basically west till we get to Kansas City, Oklahoma City, and that. So not including the Great Plains or the High Plains. And then if we zoom way out, here are the tornadoes that have occurred this year. Notice how few there are. There are just so many fewer. Nothing in North Dakota, maybe one in South Dakota, just a few in Nebraska, Kansas, a few more in Oklahoma, a few more in Texas. But as you head eastward into the area where they are traditionally not found as frequently, you end up with a much greater concentration. So the traditional boundaries of Tornado Alley shown there in red, and the emerging boundaries of Tornado Alley shown there in the whitish shade. So that may end up being one of the implications of a warming planet. And we know that if the planet warms, everything begins to shift around. Okay? In other words, the Midwestern U.S., including us, becomes much more tropical-like. Okay? The northern plains become much more like the southern plains were. Everything's shifting northward. Okay? And so other ways that things can shift are more than just north because it's warming and you're getting more and more warm air is the fact that the jet streams further north on an average, climatologically, or because of the dynamic interaction of the mountains and the jet stream tends to sink, and there's a dip in the jet stream traditionally over the eastern U.S. It's there especially in the winter, but it happens quite a bit, okay? And so with westerly winds coming over the mountains, they sink from as much as 14,000 feet high all the way down to about 1,000 feet or a little bit less when you get to the Missouri River here. And that dries the air out, warms it up, less moisture available for tornadoes. And as a result, the moisture and all that is still plentiful here east of traditional Tornado Alley, and that leads to what we call the emerging Tornado Alley. And once again, thanks to meteorologist Brad Malsard for taking his time today to put all that together. I think it's a very good explanation. All right, let me see if there's any other quick comments, and I'm done. Hey, Steve, Tuesday the 27th was the 6th anniversary of the big tornadoes in the Dayton area. That night he had golf ball size hail for half an hour in Huber Heights. And I know that was one of those things when we were looking at it on radar, we just, oh, how much worse is this going to get? And then I did a number of reports from up there in the damage areas. And even a day later, there were some areas that were so damaged you couldn't get into them. It was amazing. So that may, in fact, be a more frequent occurrence around here in the future if Tornado Alley is actually beginning to shift to the east. All right, so Susan Wally says, very interesting, but she doesn't really want to live in Tornado Alley. Well, neither do I, Susan. So that's it for now. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm off tomorrow. It'll be meteorologist Erin Ashley in. She'll have the latest for you. I won't be back to work until Monday, so have yourself a good Friday. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the good weather coming our way, and try and stay dry tomorrow.